A prominent legal analyst has said that there is good reason to believe that Clarence Thomas will resign from his position as a Supreme Court justice soon. But don't get too excited. That's with the condition that Donald Trump wins the election, and it's super consequential. Okay, as we will discuss. This is Anthony Alfieri, law professor at the University of Miami, that recently put out a statement saying, in the event that former President Trump is reelected in November, both Justice Thomas's age and presumed commitment to preserving his 34-year legacy raise the likelihood that he will resign, not only to pursue other interests such as teaching, travel, and lecturing, but also to escape the harsh light of ongoing criticism and investigation of his conduct on and off the court. So that's a lot of good reasons, and it does seem very reasonable. Obviously, were he to be replaced by a Democrat, that would be a massive change for the Supreme Court. Were he to be replaced by a Republican, then there goes another probably 30 or so years of the worst person you've ever seen on the court. And bear in mind, the average retirement age from the Supreme Court between the 70s to 2006, it was 78.7 years old. Justice John Paul Stevens retired at the age of 90, so sometimes it is later. But Clarence Thomas is 76, so he is getting right up there. The average tenure for US Supreme Court justices is about 15 years, but that is very much weighted by shorter terms earlier in American history. It is now much longer. In the last 50 or so years, it's been closer to 28 years, which means there is very good reason to believe that anyone that gets on the court from here on out, I will have to talk about for the rest of my career, okay? And I don't want to have to talk about any more people put on there by Donald Trump. I'm ready to bid adieu the 3 loathsome individuals we already have. But anyway, I think that replacing Clarence Thomas, Francesca, is one of the greatest little feathers in the cap of anyone voting.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fear that if Donald Trump is reelected, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito both will likely retire and be replaced by, I don't know, some spry little barely past the bar, like another religious zealot who's like 27, I mean, they're all auditioning right now. You've got Eileen Cannon, you've got Judge Kazmark. These are people who have helped Donald Trump out and in Kazmark's case, have sentenced women to die from miscarriages and or abortions, right? So they're all auditioning and they're all excited about Trump. And look, if Kamala Harris wins, and you're still gonna have Alito and you're still gonna have Clarence Thomas, and they will hold on for dear life. But I hope if the last 8 years has proven anything, it is how critical elections are purely in nominating and getting judges appointed to benches like obviously the Supreme Court, but many other federal benches that have stymied, for example, women's rights around this country, and that many Republican lawmakers rely on those judges to do their bidding and to uphold their draconian, awful laws. And it's not just women's rights, it's about labor rights, it's about civil rights, it's about voting rights, it's about climate and environmental rights, it's about the ability for our government to obviously be able to have any kind of regulatory power over corporations that are, systematically poisoning our food and water and air. And so on and on and on, this is the reason. But I do hope, John, that if Kamala Harris wins, that we start to get serious about having a game plan for making the courts actually reputable. Whether that's having term limits, expanding the court. Like, we need to see some long-term project planning from Democrats that Republicans have shown they're willing to do for decades now through the likes of Leonard Leo. I mean, they had a plan, they executed it, and we're all living in the hellscape that has come from it.
I would love to see that. The Democrats definitely need to push for systemic reform to the Supreme Court. Joe Biden has brought it up. It needs to be a constant. I mean, we can get other big reforms, electoral college and all that, but it needs to happen. And by the way, one of the other reasons he might step down is even if he doesn't really want to, there might be some like conservative donors who'd be willing to hand over a lot of money if he steps down. Now, obviously, if Harris gets into office, those conservative donors are not going to be paying him to step down. But maybe John Oliver will still have his offer on the table. We'll see.
I mean, the guy is
also,
so corrupt. That's the other thing. Like, he's just so corrupt. He's tired of not getting paid more money.
He can make more money on the outside. And just one final incentive. Just remember how many judges tend to be appointed by a president. Here's a chart. Trump in 4 years put 226 judges in incredibly important. They make decisions every day that affect people's lives. Biden in 4 years has done 205. That's Biden, and he's been asleep most of that time. Harris with 4 years could replace a significant chunk of the conservative judges out there at a variety of levels. Let's just give the Democrats enough cycles so we can weed out every single one of these people. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.